Celiac disease is my professional passion. It's what I spend my waking hours thinking about. And it's natural for me. I come from Galway. Galway has been a centre of celiac research for decades. So when I went to America to study gastroenterology, which is my field, celiac disease came naturally. I come from a medical family. From my earliest memories, it was medical conversations at the dining room table. I think though what drove me to medicine, or brought me to medicine, was with my mother when I would help her out when she would go on locums in Connemara, and seeing the intimacy that she developed with patients. And that was a tremendous, I think, honour and privilege to be given that. And I think that still sticks with me today. Being in medical school here, I wasn't just being challenged to be a doctor, but I had the opportunity, especially with Rory Comerford, who was an experimental medicine, to learn about science and researcher. So I left Galway with an aspiration not only to be a doctor, but to be a scientist. I realized I needed to go elsewhere for opportunities, especially to expand that research focus. And so I went west and ended up in America. And I brought with me probably the most precious gift that any man can be given, which was my wife, Imelda, who I met here at UCHG. She was a nurse in St. Enda's ward, and persuaded her I was worthy enough to follow to America. And so we brought our 2 young children to America, which was for a planned 3 years, but we've stayed now for 28 years, following opportunity. First at Iowa, and then at the Mayo Clinic, where I've been doing celiac disease now for a couple of decades. It's really been the revelation that celiac disease, once rare, is now common. And much of my career is focused on discovering the hidden celiac disease. And now we're focusing on what causes celiac disease, with the goal eventually of trying to roll back this tide. In addition, there's been a lot of focus placed on gluten outside of celiac disease. And you can look in any store or any, on the public media, you see lots being written or talked about gluten, or gluten-free this and gluten-free that. What's the truth behind this? And we know people with celiac disease have to live gluten-free. And for them, it's not a choice or a fad or a fashion. It's medically essential. And indeed, many of them continue to have damage in their intestine or continue to have symptoms. And much of my focus is on how can we treat them better? Are there things beyond a gluten-free diet? And so we've been running trials of different approaches to treat celiac disease, some of which have included colleagues here from here in Galway. And our goal eventually is to prevent the disease, treat it in a way that makes this disease much more livable for people. We may have left Ireland and Galway a long time ago, but we've maintained some of the strongest connections with our home. And I still think of Galway as home when everyone asks me where I'm from. And that connection has continued. It's continued probably in one of the greatest ways. My younger daughter is a medical graduate from NUI. She returned here some years ago for medical school. And I remember when she was asking me, because she was determined to come to Ireland for medical school, she asked me, she said, well, Dad, where should I go? And I recalled a conversation I had with my father in 1977. I was filling out the famous CAO form. And I, of course, was ambitious at the time, and I was looking at the list of medical schools, and I looked at him and I said, Dad, what would you think if I were to apply to one of the Dublin medical schools? And he looked at me, and my father was one never given to emotion, but he raised one eyebrow. You knew that he had some, and with some disdain in his voice, he told me, Joe, you will never find a better medical education anywhere in the world than Galway. And those were words I repeated to my daughter, and I'm of course delighted that this family love affair with medicine, and with Galway in particular, has continued, as my daughter Aoife, who's a graduate of 2015, has made Galway her home.